Could a big move be coming for the Miami Dolphins? Tyreek Hill's injury will keep him out for the year. Well, there might be some rumors that the Dolphins go out and add another wide receiver to this roster. Now, on Tuesday, they did sign Cedric Wilson off of the Saints practice squad to add him to this depth chart. But let's be honest here. It's a group that there's a lot of promise, but there's not a lot of guarantee. The only guaranteed player you have on this group is Jalen Waddle. Malik Washington's still a little bit of an unknown. Nick Westbrook-Keeney really hasn't provided anything for you so far this season. Signed a 2-year deal in free agency. But D. Eskridge, Taj Washington, and Cedric Wilson Jr., well, they're not expected to really bring you that much either. And I'll be honest, I do doubt that Miami ultimately makes a big trade for a wide receiver, but you never know with Chris Grier. You just simply don't. The guy is a big game hunter. We saw it with the Tyreek Hill trade, the Jalen Ramsey trade, the Bradley Chubb trade. Like, if he feels like he can get a big-time productive veteran into his locker room for a relatively cheap price point, he will try to do it. So with some of these wide receivers that we're going to talk about not having the greatest starts of the season and their trade value being potentially diminished, maybe Chris Grier could strike with the Tyreek Hill injury in the back of his head. Well, if a trade does go down for the Miami Dolphins, we will have you covered on Twitter before we make a video. So hit that follow button. At Nick_Roloff is my handle. We have 2,370 current followers. We're trying to get to 2,400. Help me out. Give me a follow today. All right, the first trade target. How about A.J. Brown, the Philadelphia Eagles star wide receiver? This guy is off to a really rough start this season. Through the first 4 weeks of the year, only 14 receptions for 151 yards, 1 touchdown. This is a player that was having one of the best seasons that we've seen in a while last year. Go back 365. There was a stat, I think, that he had like 7 games straight of 7 catches and 100 yards or something like that. It was something nuts. And now this year, he's been absolutely invisible for this Eagles offense. And if you're an A.J. Brown fantasy owner or super fan, the scary part is they're 4-0. So they're 4-0 with him not really being productive. And it's not for a lack of targets. A lot of people made a story about A.J. Brown's targets in week 1 when he was only targeted 1 time. He did catch it, but he only had 1 target, 1 reception. Weeks 2, weeks 8, weeks 4, it's been 8, 10, and 9 targets respectively, but outside of week 3 against the Rams, he really hasn't turned it into anything positive. Only 5 catches in week 2, only 2 catches in week 4. It's been a weird year for A.J. Brown, and his advanced stats aren't very kind to him whatsoever. His catch rate is 50%. So Jalen Hurts has a 50% completion percentage when targeting A.J. Brown. His catch rate over expected, it's actually lower. It should be, according to analytics, 51.8%. It's not. It's 50%. That's not good there. His average separation per target is 1.7 yards, which tells you he's not really creating a ton of separation, and almost everything is a contested catch. His reception EPA is negative 3.6, and his EPA per target is negative 0.13, which means the Eagles' offense would be better off on a daily and play basis to not target and throw it to A.J. Brown. It has been a bad year for the star wide receiver to this point. And we know he is not a fan of where things are going. It just isn't. A.J. Brown posted this after the win against the Bucs in week 4. Just a photo. If you're not welcomed, not listened to, quietly withdraw. Don't make a scene, shrug your shoulders, and be on your way. What does that tell you? It tells you that he feels not valued, and he's not going to make a big scene of it, but he doesn't want to be in Philadelphia playing in a run-first offense with a quarterback that does not push the ball down the field. So I feel like A.J. Brown would welcome and probably wish for a potential trade. And this isn't when it comes to A.J. Brown, but I do have a question for you. Would you trade for a wide receiver following the Tyreek Hill injury? Or are you fine just letting it play out with what you got for the rest of the season and then reevaluate in the offseason? Type Y if you'd make a trade, type N if you're holding off. Well, I think you have to talk about, in any trade, potentially the contract that you're taking in. Because A.J. Brown is still relatively young. He's been in the league for a while, but he is 28 years of age. But as you see on your screen, his contract is just continuing to go up year after year after year. Now, not a ton of base salary on his contracts, but a lot of different roster bonuses, and his cap numbers are pretty large. So you taking him in a trade wouldn't be that bad, but then once he's on your team for multiple years, the contract is going to really set in. And if we're going to be honest with where Miami is as a football team and an organization, it doesn't make a ton of sense to trade for A.J. Brown. It just doesn't. Because you have to take in a guy that is going to demand targets and make a mess of the situation when he doesn't get targets and receptions and scripting the offense. But you also have taken a guy making $20+ million a year when Miami has to spend money to fix their offensive line, fix their defensive line, their secondary. Like, if you go down the list of issues for the Miami Dolphins, I think wide receiver might be at the bottom of the list with the safety, or the running back room. So it's like, wide receivers and running backs probably don't need to go out and trade for an expensive guy. A cheaper guy? Sure. Guy making $20+ million? I don't know. Which brings us to DJ Moore, the Chicago Bears wide receiver, who makes around the same money as A.J. Brown. We'll get to that in a second. But there's a lot of similarities between these two. Two wide receivers that were thought of respectively as a top 10 guy and a top 15 guy a year ago, but have gotten off to an extremely slow start this year. New offensive coordinator in Philly, new head coach and play caller in Chicago. Well, DJ Moore, almost similar stat line to A.J. Brown. Only 16 catches, 170 yards, same average yards per catch. But his utilization has been the part that is so interesting and intriguing to me. DJ Moore has lined up in the backfield as a running back at times. Like, he is simply not getting a ton of targets downfield. A lot of how he has been utilized is in the backfield and in the screen game. They have prioritized targeting Rome Odunze. They've gotten Luther Burden involved. Like, the overall Bears offense has been very intriguing. We know Ben Johnson likes to spread the ball around, but you would have thought DJ Moore, since he had a solid rapport with Caleb Williams over the past couple of years and a new play caller, would be able to get more production, but he simply hasn't, which has left him potentially as a trade candidate. And we'll talk more about his contract here in a second. But this episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. You and I make decisions every single day. The right decisions on Prize Picks can get you paid where it's good to be right. So simple to play. You just pick more or less on at least 2 player stats. If you get your picks right, you could cash in. Best way to win cash this football season. Which players are going off, which ones aren't, which ones are overhyped. Make your picks in less than 60 seconds and turn your takes into cash all season long on Prize Picks. I have an entry in for week 5, more than Chuba Hubbard rushing yards, more than Jalen Waddle touchdowns, and more than Cam Scatterbo 64.5 rushing yards. You can download the Prize Picks app today and use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Links in the description and comments of today's video. Prize Picks. It's good to be right. Now, when I'm talking about DJ Moore, I could see him getting traded. Now, to the Miami Dolphins, that's a different type of conversation. But when you're thinking about a wide receiver trade, I think Moore is very likely. And like A.J. Brown, his contract is starting to really set in after Ryan Poles gave him a pretty massive extension following a very successful first season in Chicago a couple years ago, the final year with Justin Fields. And as you see, just like A.J. Brown, same age, 28, 29, now making $25, $28 million per season, it's just a little bit tough to envision a trade for the Dolphins with these type of contracts having to come into your books. And I'll mention that once again. DJ Moore would be an awesome player to be a wide receiver to Jalen Waddle, and I think Mike McDaniel would be able to utilize him very well. Same thing with A.J. Brown. But with the state of the Dolphins roster, you cannot commit draft capital and a lot of money, $20 million plus a season, for a veteran wide receiver. You need to save that money to help your trenches and secondary going forward. Well, if the Dolphins do ever make a trade, whether trading a player away or trading for a player, we will have you covered. So subscribe, join the fam today for daily Dolphins coverage. The final trade target for the Dolphins may be the most likely and sensible, that being Jakobi Meyers, the Raiders wide receiver, who the Dolphins know very well from his time as a New England Patriot. Now, if you look at these three guys, you wouldn't expect it coming into the year, but Jakobi Meyers has been the most productive one out of the three. He has the most receptions. He has the most yards. He's actually the most explosive as well. Now, the only place he lacks compared to the other guys is their touchdowns. He has 0. The other two had 1. But Meyers is a more productive wide receiver for their respective teams. And why does it make more sense for Miami? Well, not only is he more productive and having a better year, but he's also a better fit in this system as well as on their contract books. Jakobi Meyers in the final year of a 3-year contract he signed with the Raiders and currently only has a $10.5 million base salary. So it would not cost you a lot to take Jakobi Meyers in. And unlike DJ Moore, unlike AJ Brown, if you end up making this trade, you are not tied to Jakobi Meyers long term. Now, you could ultimately extend him and re-sign him in the offseason, sure, which would be probably a solid choice depending on how much he gets financially and he commands. But you could make a trade with a day 3 pick potentially, or swap an edge rusher for a wide receiver and get a trade done. Because the Raiders are struggling. They're 1-3, just like you. They've lost 3 in a row to the Bears, to the Commanders, to the Chargers. They haven't looked good in the past couple of weeks. Their only win against the Patriots. So if they continue to struggle, Jakobi Meyers wanted a new contract coming into the year, didn't get it. If the Raiders don't want to give him a big contract in free agency and re-sign him or extend him, why not trade him if you're not going to compete for a title in a playoff spot this season? So I could absolutely see Jakobi Meyers being traded. Who is your top Dolphins trade target? Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section. Is it Jakobi Meyers? Is it DJ Moore? Is it AJ Brown? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. Once again, I'll make this point abundantly clear so there is no confusion in the comments. I don't think the Dolphins make a trade at wide receiver. I don't even think I want them to trade for a wide receiver, if we're going to be honest. There's just no need for that with the current state of the roster, and I like some of these depth pieces that the Dolphins have with Taj Washington, Nick Westbrook-Ikini, Malik Washington. I think if you add a wide receiver, it's either going to be a signing or a promotion within. Now, we mentioned it off the top. Cedric Wilson got signed earlier this week, but you could also promote Theo Weiss Jr., who was on the preseason roster, is on the practice squad currently, and showed a lot of nice things as a UDFA out of Missouri. I mean, in the preseason, he had 10 catches for 104 yards and 2 touchdowns. Now, most of that was with third stringers against third stringers working with Quinn Ewers, and he doesn't really have that same camaraderie and rapport with Tua, which is understandable, but I wouldn't hate bringing him up to the active roster. Now, if you don't like what you've seen from Cedric Wilson or any of your depth pieces and want to add another free agent wide receiver, here are the top 5 available. Deontay Johnson, DJ Chark, Tyler Boyd, Robert Woods, and KJ Osborne. Like, all of those players there are names that are familiar, but are veterans who aren't really going to provide you with a ton. So if we're going to be real, I think they're probably going to stick with what they got after the Cedric Wilson signing. And also, if they add another one, would probably just be a practice squad promotion of Theo Weiss Jr. All right, I'll do it for today's show. Appreciate everybody for tuning in. If you want more Dolphins coverage and content, go find it over on my Twitter /X. @Nick_Off is the handle. Go give me a follow right now.